The city started out as a marshland not even the Native Americans wanted, and has gone through the worst of fire, pollution, and corruption, and much, much more. But it is still on top, running with ease and with so much support of its citizens. The Great Chicago Fire was both a blessing and a curse, but they didn't see it at the time. All they saw was the destruction that the fire caused. The fire started Sunday night on October 8th. The city had little rainfall in the past few months, and it didn't help that the whole city was made out of wood. It started in the south side, supposedly in old Miss O'Leary's barn, by a cow knocking over a lantern. Unfortunately, there was a fire earlier in the day, so the fire department had no water to help put it out. It was also a very windy night, which helped spread the fire even more. The cold air and the heat of the fire also smashed together, causing a fire tornado. Chicagoans were first relieved when the fire hit the Chicago River, but because of the slime-polluted layer over the river caught fire, spreading the fire even more. The fire finally died down on October 10th. The destruction of the fire caused $2 million in damage. Today, that would be $3 billion. The fire also killed between 200 and 300 people, leaving 100,000 homeless and destroying 17,450 buildings. The fire left the city with heartbreak. The one booming, fast-moving city was now in ruins. But what they didn't know was that the fire was a blessing in disguise. Many people believed that the Chicago fire was a step back, but for the architectures, it was a huge opportunity. After the fire, the city didn't know how to react. Is that the end of Chicago, or should we rebuild? Without wasting too much time, they decided to rebuild it, but not just rebuild it, but bring in architects from around the U.S. to make a new and advanced, beautiful city. People believed if you surround others with beauty, that they will behave. So that's what Chicago tried to do. Before the architects were done planning, they started the construction. The city also placed in laws to people rebuilding. The law was that you can't use any more wood, only fireproof materials like brick, marble, stone. Everything was fine until the banks started failing, causing the construction to stop. When things picked up again, the little business owners couldn't afford the new stone materials. That caused the small business owners to either break the law or leave the city. Some new building techniques were created during this rebuild, like the steel cage. Use steel cage beams inside the building to build higher and allow bigger windows. Because of the Great Chicago Fire, the city was given a chance to plan a new beautiful city with skyscrapers and a new future.
On the outside, Chicago was a beautiful city, but on the inside, it was polluted and filthy. Factories were everywhere, the Chicago River was filthy, and buildings were in terrible conditions. There were dead animals on the roads, and tenants' buildings were falling apart. Despite the city's condition, Chicago had many strong industries. However, these industries polluted the city even more, which meant that there were many boats to pollute the water. That was one of the main reasons why the Chicago River was so filthy. Chicago was also nicknamed the hog butcher of the world because they killed so many hogs. Even though this brought in lots of money for Chicago, many animal carcasses were thrown into the river. The river also turned a scarlet color in areas where there were slaughterhouses. The river had an oily top layer because of other pollution. The city needed to clean up its act and show off its potential to other places, so they decided to have the World's Fair. The World's Fair was a result of the city's need for change. Chicago had to fight for the privilege to host the fair with Washington, D.C., St. Louis, and New York City. Of course, Chicago won, and the fair was held there in 1893, a year later than planned. The World's Fair celebrated the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival to the United States in 1942. It took 3 years of preparation and hard work to eventually produce the World's Fair. People from all different places came to Chicago for the fair. They came from over 50 different countries and 45 different states. Daniel H. Burnham and his partner John W. Root were in charge of the construction of the fair. They got inspiration from previous fairs, but also found ways to make Chicago's fair different. There were many exhibits showing the country's diversity, like from a palm tree from California and even the Liberty Bell from Philadelphia. And of course, there was the Ferris wheel. The fair was extremely successful with over 6.8 million visitors and raising over $4 million. The Chicago Fair's legacy varies from movements in pop culture and a new influence of technology. The Chicago World's Fair was a window to their future. Overall, this city has been through so much, and even though it has had some hard times and struggles, it has still come out on the top.